If you're looking to hire caregiving at home for yourself or even a family member, the secret they're not telling you is you can definitely do it on your own. And as a home care business owner for going on 12 years, I'm going to share with you everything you need to know. Hiring a caregiver for a loved one is a big decision, and let's face it, it's expensive. However, the cost of not setting it up right, whether legally, financially, or even just overall care, is going to be a lot worse if we don't set it up the right way. First, let's talk about your employment responsibilities. And let me highlight this by asking, do you remember the Bill Clinton presidential scandal? I'm not talking about that one. This one is actually called Nannygate, and it had to do with Zoe Bird. In 1993, she was up for one of the biggest positions in the country. She was up to be the US Attorney General for the Clinton presidency. However, the scandal came to be that she was hiring caregivers, undocumented caregivers, and not actually paying the taxes for those caregivers. Because of this scandal that became known as Nannygate, she ended up losing the position before she could even start. Now, for most of us out there, we're not going to be on the news. It's not going to be a huge scandal, but this is something that can actually happen if we don't understand our employment responsibilities. Now, employment responsibilities, I'm probably paying for somebody out of pocket. Maybe at best, you probably have a contract, and that contract is probably saying, if you're really prepared, that this person is an independent contractor. Now, the issue with that is if this independent contracting doesn't align with the government's employment rules, it's 3 simple questions. Those 3 simple questions are, number 1, do you control this person's schedule, what they have to do, and exactly how they do the tasks that they have to do for you? For most of us that are looking for care, the answer to that question would be, yeah. Right? We want someone to come in at a specific time because that's the time we need them to help mom or dad. We're telling them exactly what they are supposed to do. And we're even sometimes having to train them or orient them and show them how to do what we want them to do. It could be as simple as, I like my egg sunny side up. This is how you make the egg sunny side up. So for most of us, we would actually fail that as we're looking for a caregiver to support us. That now means that that caregiver is your employee, and some of the same employment rules you're now subjugated to. You're subjugated to, are you paying this person minimum wage? If the person works over 40 hours, are you paying overtime for this person? Are you having their taxes, workers' compensation, sick time, FMLA? All of these things factors into whether or not you are setting up yourself to be successful as an employer of this caregiver that you've now hired. So that's pitfall number 1. Number 2 is also kind of like a no-brainer, right? We're paying this person cash under the table. The problem with paying this person cash under the table is that if that person went and said, you know what, I want to file taxes. If that person went and said, you know what, we lost our job, maybe mom or dad unfortunately passed away. Now that person goes, I don't have work. So innocently, that person goes to file unemployment. Well, the government's going to ask, where have you been working? And innocently, that person goes, I've been working for you. Now the government starts to backtrack and trace all of your pay contributions, all of your findings, and now you're responsible for penalties and fees, just like Zoe Bird. The third pitfall to look out for is backup. Now, a caregiver, even the best of them, do have situations themselves. They might call out because they're sick. What do you do in those situations? How are you planning for those situations? These are the things that you have to keep in the back of your mind if this is the journey that you want to go on. Now that we know all of these pitfalls, we know the things to kind of watch out for, let's talk about how you can be successful with setting up care and managing care and finding that great caregiver for your loved one all on your own, which can even save you some money. Well, here's the tip. Exactly what other home care agencies are doing, including mine, is the same thing you gotta do too. The difference is you have the upper hand versus us as home care owners. Why? Because you are literally looking for that one great caregiver for your one very specific situation. That's not what home care owners and home care agencies are doing. They have to find caregivers that can fit a plethora of different types of clients. Thus, you have the upper hand, my friend. Now, what do you have to do? Well, we'll break it down into 4 steps. The first one being before you start recruiting, your prep step. Let's dive in. You're preparing to write a job ad. And how you prepare to write this job ad is by detailing out everything you are going to need. How do you figure out what you need? Let's figure out with what you're doing right now for the person that you're going to be recruiting for, right? How you're taking care of your loved one, So let's figure out what your care plan is going to have to look like, what that person's needs are, what's your goal for care. A lot of things that even agency owners don't think about is delegation. You got to figure out what you still want to do. You got to figure out what you have the capacity to do. What's your capacity to give? And then we'll figure out how to delegate around that based on what your loved ones need. So again, for this prep step, let's start creating a care plan. And that care plan should once again include your goals, the things that you will still continue to do for your loved one, the thing that you need your caregiver that you're gonna hire to fitting to do for your loved one. And you know everything about your loved one. But if you need some help with figuring out what kind of characteristics and personality my loved one or even myself might fall into to help you figure out the best match, we've created a tool for you. It's called the Purposeful Pairing Tool. And if you click on the link in the details section of this video, it will bring you directly to the Purposeful Pairing screen on our website. All you have to do is click Take This Test. And when you take this test, make sure you have like 15 minutes because it's very detailed and asks really intimate questions about your loved one. And if this cares for you, about yourself, personality type questions, things that will trigger you, things that you like to do, things that you love to do. And once you answer that, it gives you the category that you best fit into or your loved one best fits into so that you can actually use that information, literally copy and paste it. And now you have some more talking points when you're talking and looking for a caregiver to help to manage you and your loved one's situation. Now that takes us into our second thing. We go from our prep step to actually doing. We're gonna use all that information to first start our recruitment process. And that recruitment process, what you're gonna now do is you're gonna use all that information that you did in your prep step to create a job description. Guess what all other agencies are doing? The same thing that you're gonna do here during this recruitment process. You're going to talk to friends and families about their experience and if they had a caregiver themselves and if they can recommend you to any caregivers themselves. You're also then going to go onto Facebook and post a job ad on Facebook. Guess what? It's very cost effective. You're also going to go on to Indeed and also post your job ad on Indeed. Again, these are things that agency owners are also doing. They're just not telling you this is what they're doing. Now, as you start to get people that are interested and you have a big pool, there are caregivers that loves working for agencies. And if I'm thinking about Glenda, who's been with us for 9 years, loves working for agencies, but there are also caregivers that prefers that one-on-one intimate relationship, direct to consumer relationship. And those are the people you're looking for. And there is a vast market of caregivers that wants that type of relationship with you. So first, it starts with your job description. It starts with now you're gonna go post on all these, talk to your friends and families. And now once you start interviewing and you find that right person, at least you think you found that right person, go do a background check. There are plenty of companies, if you type in background checks on Google, that you can go and do a background check. You don't just want the state's background check, you want a national background check. You also want to check the DMV records to see if this person has anything on their driver's license as well. You want to make sure you know as much as possible about this person to make sure you're comfortable with them taking care of your loved one. And that's the recruiting process. But once you recruit a caregiver, you gotta keep a caregiver, especially if they're the caregiver for you. And it's a very simple step when it comes to keeping your caregiver. I tell all of my family members, all of them, if you want a good caregiver that's gonna stay good for you, you have to treat them like family. Seriously. If you do a great job of taking care of the person that is taking care of your loved one, that is synonymous with success. Figure out what this person likes, how that person is motivated. How do you figure it out? Literally ask them. Some people might be compensation. Some people might be literally thank you. Figure it out, ask them, and then you continue to motivate that person based on what they've told you about themselves. If you follow that literally to your heart, you will maintain a good caregiver for the duration of that relationship with that caregiver. So think about it like this. The reason that a care plan is so important and the reason that you want to make sure that you're continuing to follow up on care plans is because the last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you're taking care of somebody based on information you know about that person 8 months ago. That's the last thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that you're also putting into a process an ability to track literally what's going on with this person. So for instance, if the reason for care that you came up with was because your loved one had a fractured hip, the last thing you want to do is start a care plan based on that fractured hip 8 months ago and continue that care plan based on the fractured hip You want to know things like how many steps were your loved one taking before, so that you can then figure out, a couple months later, how many steps this person is still being able to take. Here's a good example of why this is so important. We had a client at one point where the family really wanted us to take a big step back, a huge step back. They did not want us to come in. They didn't want to follow up. They kind of just wanted that caregiver relationship, but they wanted the agency just in case, right? And we'll do that for you too. However, what ended up happening was we weren't able to go in and continue to do our reevaluations. We weren't able to go in and continue to have touch points with our caregivers and our clients. Family called one day and they were really livid. Why? Because loved one had some signs of shortness of breath that was not being monitored. Loved one also gained some weight over a very quick period of time, which shows some cardiac concerns. Having water weight that retains can show itself in gaining weight very rapidly, which is something that we need to make sure that we are not just tracking, but then monitoring regularly. Unfortunately, this client ended up going into the hospital and had to have immediate surgery because of what was happening. They were retaining water in their body. That is a problem. And if we had been managing that appropriately from the beginning, we could have been weighing the client on an everyday basis before they started eating. We could have put into play the game plan for a caregiver to make sure that that caregiver knows exactly what to do for a client that has COPD or congestive heart failure or any other cardiovascular impairments. But because we didn't, it triggered a situation that could have potentially been avoided all along. Again, your care plan is not something that you set and forget. Your care plan is something that you have to continuously update. And if you're not doing it on a weekly basis, make sure you're at least trying to look back over your care plan on a quarterly basis, just as you would with any professional, personal documents. That's the importance of a care plan. Keep on evolving it over time. Think about your care plan as goals. You're setting 30-day goals, 60-day goals, or quarterly goals for your loved one. And then when you come back to it, you want to ask yourself questions. Did we accomplish these things? Did anything change? And those are the same thing that you can also bring into the doctor's offices as well to help you have more detailed conversations about what's going on with your loved one. Now, if you want an example of what a care plan should look like, guess what we have for you, family? A free care plan template. So you can take this template and create a care plan based on the information in this template that you answer for your specific situation. When it comes to figuring out, hey, can I find a caregiver on my own? I think you got the answer today. Can I manage a caregiver on my own? I think you got the answer today. And I believe wholeheartedly that you can. Now, if you need some help, if you want more details about this course, we have an entire course. And if you're in Connecticut, you can go to your local library or your local senior center and request them to reach out to Pansy Homecare so we can bring this course to a town near you. I want to help you. Look, caring for people is expensive, whether you choose to go this route or you choose to go the agency route. But managing care is all about the things that we talked about in here. And it's something that you can do. My name is Jonah with Pansy Homecare, and I appreciate the opportunity to help you, your family, and your situation. Until next time, family, peace.